All right, the next thing to do with the exhaust on this Pathfinder is to get this under there. But let's be honest, it looks horrible. I'm fully aware that this looks terrible. And I know it's just exhaust. It doesn't have to look great. It's under the truck. But I'd like it to look a little bit less terrible. So we're going to use that there to make this look better. We're gonna sheet it all in, make it kind of look like a muffler. First thing is kind of clean all this up a little bit and figure out our ends. Little fab tip, keep some of your used zip discs around of varying sizes. So when you need to draw corners or a circle on something, you can find one that's the right size. Oh, still a little small. Just slightly too big. I could either make some cuts with that or just suck it up and use that as that size. But there we go. Now I can mark out my corners and draw a fairly nice circle. One side done and ready to tack on. If it looks a little crooked, that's because it is. Apparently when I made this, I was not too worried about making it flat and straight. So it's a little cockeyed. And I don't want to make the framing cockeyed, so I purposely put the holes in there a little twisted so that the shell can be straight. Yeah, so I'll tack that on and then make the other side and mark that one out and tack that one on. And then we'll fully weld it on the inside and the outside. And then we'll make the shell. Well, it's coming together nicely. I got the inside welded out, the outside welded all out, and then ground smooth for when we weld more to it later. And I think you can kind of see where this is going. I was hoping to kind of bend something in the press brake to start and then suction it down, but I don't have access to that anymore. I have a completely new job, so this is going to be by hand until I figure out some kind of press or press brake here. I even wanted to kind of build a stamp to stamp my company name into this, but again, yeah, we'll have to wait. This one, which is just a prototype anyways. So we're going to do it by hand. We're going to measure the distance around here, the circumference, I guess. It's not technically a circle, but we're going to treat it like a circle-ish. We're going to measure this 3 different ways. One is by math. Technically, this is a half circle, and this is a half circle. So you can do a whole circle there and do the math there, 3.5 inches times pi, and then just add from there to there and there to there. And then we're going to try by going around it with a tape measure to see if it's the same. And then we're going to set it on here and roll it around and see if it's all the same. And wherever it kind of meets, we're probably going to do it a little long, and we can cut it down after anyways. When I had options of a press brake, I was hoping to do a little lip in it that folds over itself. So the math came out to be 25.5. Putting the tape measure all around came out to be about 25.5. And then rolling it on here came out to 26. So I'm going to cut it at 27, and then that's our piece to work with. And then if it overlaps at the top, it overlaps, and I can cut it down. So I managed to just be able to force it over by hand for the most part, then clamp it down. The other side snugged up really good, and I was just able to like tap it with a hammer into place. This side, however, doesn't really want to. I could just weld that as is, but I think I'm just going to go along it and clamp it down with some vice grips, and then tack it, and then move the vice grips, tack it, move the vice grips, tack it, until it's all nice and smooth along there. I got it all forced around on both sides. Everything's tacked. There's like 1 inch of overlap, so it looks like the 26 would have been okay. I did the 27. I'm glad I did. Have a few options here. This is where that dog leg would have been nice. 27 with a dog leg, and that 1-inch dog leg would have overlapped that, and it would look nice and complete and professional. This doesn't look as professional, but whatever. There's a couple things I can do. I can just weld it, overlap like that, or I could zip disc through and cut them down to be even, but I think I'm going to leave it overlapped. That's fine. It'll be easier to weld on top instead of butt weld. Less chance of blowing through. And these flanges are a little longer than I wanted, but that's okay. I knew that going into this, that I said that. I was okay with that for a couple reasons. One, it'd be a lot easier to weld all this farther away from an edge. Less chance of wrecking the edge. I can weld a little hotter without wrecking the edge there. Two, in case these didn't line up when I wrapped it all around, which they don't. So what I can do, I think what I'm going to do is weld the whole thing together on both sides, top, everything. I'll clamp this nice and flat when I weld it. And then what I'll do is I'll cut some of the edge off. I'll mark it 1/2 inch out or 3/8 out or 1/4 inch out, whatever I want from this. And then I'll zip disc it around there, clean up the ends, and then it'll be ready to go into the truck. But that looks a lot better, especially we'll put this up. So from underneath, you'll see that opposed to what it was. And this is where I wanted to stamp my logo, my company name, but or Fricked. I was debating because this is a Fricked build for the YouTube channel. Both the bumpers say Fricked. So I was debating putting Fricked on this, but I also didn't want to make a stamp just for Fricked. That's not the name of my company. My company is Elite Fab and Performance. So yeah, I kind of want to put that. Well, there's she be. All ready to go in under the Pathfinder. I'm going to put it in, and then I'm going to see how it sounds, but it shouldn't do much really yet until there's more pipe off of it, because the scavenging doesn't happen in here like an X pipe. The scavenging actually happens in the pipe following after this ends, after the split ends and the two converge. That's where the scavenging happens. So it won't change the sound or power just throwing this on, in theory, until after I have some more pipe off of it. So, well, she's in and mostly welded up. I didn't weld the top, but I wanted to weld as much as I could while it was in, while it's attached, so it doesn't pull away from the headers. It still probably will a little bit, and I may have to loosen the headers whenever I bolt that on and then tighten the headers back down, depending on how it pulls, but hopefully it doesn't. I purposely, like this was like 12 3/4. I purposely did these like 12 5/8 and had to force it in there. So it's already spreading them out. So then hopefully when I weld it and it pulls it in, it should go back to proper. But we're gonna fire it up like that, see how it sounds, and then we'll weld some pieces on and see how it sounds. And then we'll go into the rest of the exhaust. And eventually, I'll pull it all out, I'll weld it all, I'll put it back together, and as I put it together piece by piece, and it's fully welded, then we'll test it all again and see how it sounds. All right, I've misplaced my tripod, so you're just gonna have to bear with me. My quick camera prop fell over. So yeah, actually sounds pretty good like that. I can hear a header exhaust leak. I'm gonna have to deal with that, which we've kind of figured because they were warped a little bit. So I'll probably use some copper RTV, maybe even double gasket, we'll see. Or cut the headers apart so they're individuals, I don't know. But yeah, I'm starting to like the sound of it. All right, so this is the next part after a few measurements. Even though this will all be attached to the Z pipe, I should still be able to get this all out. I should be able to drop it off of the headers forward and then out, because there's a cross member right here. The reason I'm adding the flex pipe in there is I don't want my exhaust tips to move. So I'm solid mounting the muffler and the tailpipe. So from about there to there will all be solid mounted, but the motor moves a little bit. So hopefully that'll be enough. Hopefully I don't break welds and stuff, but we'll find out later on. Hopefully there should be enough movement in the system. I don't know. So yeah, I'm gonna test fit that, and then I'm gonna make the other side of it. And if they fit well, I'm gonna weld these up fully, and then I will put them on, weld them on as much as I can, and then we'll fire it up. And that'll probably be it for this one. Got it all up in there. I did have to put a 1-inch extension on this side to bring it all away from all the T-case and everything here. The other side is a little different. We actually needed it in farther this way to clear that bracket. I believe that's for the speedo cable. And then I may have to indent pipe to clear this side of the T-case, because now I'm farther over this way, unless I can kind of quickly, I'd prefer not to quickly do that. I do have to do that, but I also got to be careful of this cable here. Yeah, on this side, sorry, horrible filming. Yeah, on this side, the muffler will sit kind of up here somewhere, so I need it to come kind of bit down and over. I can sit a little bit farther back though. I do have room to do this. The other side, yeah, I'll have to figure out that cable there, but whatever. Found my tripod, so we'll fire this up. It's got about 18 inches of exhaust, 17 on that side, 18 on this side, after the Z pipe. So we'll see how that is. And that extra inch that makes this uneven is all after everything's important, so the unequal length on this side shouldn't matter too much, hopefully. Everything else is all fairly equal. So yeah, we're gonna fire this up and see with 18 inches of pipe on the back. All right, so actually I'm pretty happy with that. Not too shabby considering it's still got a few exhaust leaks, but it's got that yin yang that I kind of going for. I don't want it to sound like a Honda, but I didn't want it to sound like a straight pipe Pathfinder. And actually, even with no mufflers on it, that actually sounds pretty good. Almost don't want to put mufflers on it now. I mean, the Z pipe does look like a muffler, so I could probably get away with it if I'm ever pulled over, but no, I'll put mufflers on it. I live in a nicer neighborhood and I get along with my neighbors, so I'd like to not have this fire up every morning because I'm going to be daily driving it, so I don't want to be firing it up in the morning and it's stupid loud, and both my neighbors have kids and etc. So one is like a 1-year-old baby, so I don't want to be waking that up at 6 in the morning firing this thing up. So we will put some mufflers on it.